request to allow for an accessory structure greater than 50%. So I'll walk you through the code in just a second so that you could better understand the request and what the section of the code states. Again, as part of the background, the zoning is R1, which allows a single-family residential. The size is a little bit less than half an acre. The address is 461 Santa Gertrudis. Future land use map has this as residential. The land use is, there's a single-family home currently on the plot. And then the request again is to approve a variance granting the placement of an accessory structure that's greater than 50%. And again, I'll walk you through what that means. Staff is recommending denial, and I'm happy to walk you again through our rationale for why we would recommend denial. Here's the location map. So again, next slide, please. Here's the parcel. So again, Santa Gertrudis. That's the street that the parcel is on. Here's the zoning district. So again, it's R1 single-family residential. Here are the pictures of the property. So again, you show the single-family residential. That's the area towards the back of the lot where the gentleman would like to place the accessory structure. That's the aerial, and I'm just pointing out that there currently is an additional, there currently is an existing accessory structure on the lot already as part of the what's currently on that parcel. Here's essentially what the request is. So what the code says is that you are allowed an accessory structure, and the section of the code that states this is, I'm going to read it as part of the code. So again, section 46-352, accessory structures. This is taken directly from the city's municipal code. Note number 1, no accessory structure excluding fences or walls shall be closer than 5 feet. And then B, which is what is being asked of you this afternoon, is an accessory structure shall not exceed 50% of the square footage of the principal building. So the principal building being the house that's currently there. The size of the principal structure currently is 1,840 square feet. So if you take half of that, the applicant would be allowed to create a accessory structure that would be about 920 square feet. Again, that's 50% of the principal structure. What they are requesting is a accessory structure that would be 1,320 square feet, making a difference of additional 400 additional square footage than the 920. And then as a percentage, again, the percentage is 50%. What the applicant is requesting is about 72% of the main structure. And again, the code allows 50%. Here's part of the site plan. This is an image of what the structure would look like that was provided to us by the applicant. Here's the site plan where they would place the structure. Not sure if it's drawn to scale or not, but these are the dimensions that the applicant provided. And then again, the summary of the request is to approve an accessory structure greater than the 50%. And then for staff, our recommendation is denial. Again, we feel that the code already allows a 50% structure that would be about 920 feet, which we feel is number one, adequate. And then number two, I think that we would be sending or setting a precedence if we continue, if we, not continue, but if we allow one applicant to create a structure, again, greater than 50%, I think we would then start to open the door for many more accessory structures that would be greater than 50%. Again, we recognize that the applicant has the right to place a structure. We're not saying he can't. It would just be at the 920 square feet or so. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And the applicant is here if you'd like to ask him questions as well.
Sure. May we?
Yeah, if you, I mean, it's up to the chair.
Yes.
Would you like to speak to the applicant?
Yes, please.
Mr. Reyes. Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you for having me. Rudy Reyes, and I'm the owner of the property. Any questions you might have, I'd like to answer.
Is there any additional information that you would add to what we understand?
I'd just like to add that I've been very honest with the city. I went through the planning process. I even came and let them know about the actual structure. I know that there's a lot of buildings and homes that build these additions without permits. I'm again wanting to get that permit signed and paid for. So I think that the truth has a lot of power, and I am a strong believer in that, and that's why I'm here today. And that property that I want to build there is for my retirement. I just retired at 55, and I like to work on vehicles. I have 5 vehicles, 1 motorcycle. There's plenty of room there. There's nobody's gonna be affected as far as adverse effect or encroachment. The backyard is a canal. The only one that's next to us that would be affected per se, because it'll be next to his property, would be on one side. And the structure itself is gonna be 12 feet away from that actual property. And there's more than enough room for that structure to sit there and actually beautify the neighborhood, because it's gonna be a brand-new building. It's prefabricated, and it's gonna be something that, it's not gonna be an eyesore. And that's why I'm asking the committee to approve this change to the current ordinance. I know that we have ordinances, but I also know that, if we try to do things the right way, maybe I can have the opportunity to build the building of, my dreams for my retirement and for my mental health as well. As you know, when you retire, you have to have other things to do than just sit at home. But I ask the committee respectfully that you approve this change, based on, I've been honest, I haven't been hiding anything, and I'd like for this to move forward, if possible. Do you have any additional questions that I might answer?
No, we greatly appreciate your integrity, that's for sure. But,
What kind of business are you gonna have there?
It's not a business, sir, it's for personal. I have 5 vehicles and a motorcycle that, if you live anywhere in Socorro, most of the time you're eating dirt. So you have to have a good area to work on vehicles, and that's what I want to work on. My own vehicles is my wife's property and my property, and that's the intent of the actual building. It's not business, it's not financially based.
For some reason, I thought you said business.
No, sir. No, it's personal. And again, it's not going to affect anyone but myself if it doesn't get approved. So that's why I'm asking for it to get approved as far as the variance.
I don't have any other questions. David?
Question, yeah.
Mr.
for-
Stein?
For Mr. Gallina. Yes, sir. What's, there's an existing structure on there,
Yes, sir, there is.
right? I see it on the map, do you know the size of it by any chance?
We do not, we don't have dimensions to that. no, sir.
And what's the code for additional structure, for second structure, third structures?
So the code isn't clear about having more than one structure, although what it does say is that you cannot have more than one storage structure on your lot. So you could have, it doesn't say how many accessory structures you could have, but it does say when it is clear when it comes to storage units or storage structures, you could only have one.
Okay,
So technically, if you approve this, the gentleman could technically have a storage unit and then a garage that may or may not be used for storage.
okay. It sounds like it's gonna be used as a shop, but once the structure's there, I mean, it's there
That's correct.
forever. It could be
Yeah, that's
used
right.
for storage in the
Yeah,
future.
you don't have purview to what is inside of that structure, correct?
Okay, the other thing that I'd like to see is the proposed structure drawn to scale. I think it just looks smaller. It looks like less than 50% of the existing home. So the proposed is 72% of the existing footprint of the home?
Yes,
right?
sir.
So I think it would be much larger than what it's being shown on this drawing. Is there an existing, like a site plan, like a?
No, we did request a site plan, and this is what the gentleman submitted.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Another question, Mr. Gallina. If the new structure was attached to the existing home, then it wouldn't need, it wouldn't have to go through this process.
Correct, it wouldn't be considered an accessory structure, it would be considered an addition to the
In
home.
addition to the-
It would still meet the setback, it would still have to meet the setbacks, but that is correct. Yes, sir.
this would be as an additional?
No, ma'am. Mr. Cisneros asked if you have the home and you attach this to the home, either through a porch or some structure that's attached to it, it is technically considered an addition to the home and not an accessory structure.
Interesting.
Okay, so at that point, there's a different set of guidelines that you would need to
Yeah, at that
follow.
point, we would just be checking, I mean, the reason the gentleman came in is because he does need the inspection. We have to check the foundation. He is pouring a foundation, so we want to check the foundation is constructed adequately. And then we do have to check the anchors of the building for wind speeds and, other considerations, that it doesn't blow away. So, but yes, sir, at that point, it's a different type of, it's a different type of inspection, and he would not need to be here.
Okay, and the other thing I'm looking at is that he needs, it's 400 square feet over the 50%
That is
approximately?
correct.
So it's one less bay, basically, one less bay that's, or minus the porch area on the proposed structure.
There's three of them, I think.
There's 3 bays and a porch, so long as he can, the applicant can make it smaller and be fine and get it built, so long as he's at the 50% of the existing.
That is correct. I don't know what the I don't know, so just to clarify, I don't know what the bay square footage is, but yes, he could still build a structure that is 920 square feet.
I have a,
Go ahead.
I have an applicant for,
Yes.
question for the applicant, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Would that be possible for you to make it smaller?
Well, I purchased the property, the actual building already, so it's $21,000 that I've invested in this. But again, I didn't move forward till I got clearance from City of Socorro. So I've been pending since November of last year. And as far as, just a comment, as far as connecting that specific building to the actual existing structure, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that's more complicated than just leaving it separate. I just think it would be more complicated to do something like that, and that's allowed, and a separate structure is not allowed. It just doesn't make sense to me. Also, as far as I have the renderings here. If you want to take a look at them, I don't know if you were provided those renderings. But I also measured the property on Google Earth, the actual house structure, and it was 70 by 48. 70 wide by 48 by 70 by 48. So I don't know if that was the calculations that were made to come up with the percentage, but that might be something we need to look at, since that was questioned earlier. And I have the renderings here if you'd like to see them.
Are they these that are already on the packet?
Those are just the actual pictures, but I actually have the professional renderings from the organization that's going to professionally install this structure in the cement foundation. And I don't know if you want to take a look at them, or it's just too much to look at once. But I'd be happy to provide those to you.
Is it possible for it to be smaller though?
Well, yeah, it can be smaller, but I don't know where I would start. I would have to call the building organization. But if it comes to that, if I'm getting approved for it to be connected to the actual building or to the actual property, the existing structure, if I understood correctly.
Just to be clear, you would not, so just to be clear, let's assume you deny it, you have an option of denying it. So if you approve it, it moves forward to City Council. If you deny it, you're not necessarily approving him to attach it to the structure. The question was just asked, can he attach it to the structure and not be considered an accessory structure? That the answer is yes. The other thing just to clarify, so the gentleman said that the City of Socorro gave him clearance. We never gave him clearance. We were very forthcoming from the very beginning to let him know that it has to be 50%. Now, whether he chose to buy the building or not afterwards, that I don't know. But we that's why we're here, right? Because he's asking for the variance.
No, just for the record, I did not say clearance. I just said I was truthful with the city of Socorro. They did not provide clearance. And that's why I haven't moved forward.
I have another question.
Go ahead, Mr. Stan.
Mr. Gainez? The existing square footage is 1840, 1,840
That is correct. And we got that from CAD?
at central appraisal?
Yes, we use whatever the central appraisal
Whatever
district is
central
using.
appraisal has. Does, okay, question. And it's hard to tell on the home, but on the right side, right before right underneath the S, it looks like if there's a carport. Is there, my question would be, is there a carport?
There is a carport.
Okay, so is that considered, okay, so let me start with, on the Central Appraisal District, 1840, is that living area that you're taking into consideration only, or
I think it's just living area.
living
Yes,
area
it's just
and porch?
So let me see if I could just clarify. The 1840 is just the living area. It does not include the front, it does not include the porch. Correct.
Okay, so would taking the porch into consideration, can you take the porch into consideration, add it to the 1840, and would that bring him to what he's needing?
Yeah, perhaps, but I don't, so typically we don't calculate it that way, right? It's just the square footage of the living area that we look at.
That you look at?
Whatever is enclosed within 4 walls.
Okay, can you give me a second, Andy?
Yes, sir.
Let me pull it up, okay.
I do have one question while we wait. How long has the applicant been at this residence?
That I don't know, sir.
Can we,
Well, I've been in the city of Socorro for over 50 years, and my wife's been in that specific property for about 30 years.
30 years? Okay. And the reason I ask is because it looks like there's, I mean, what is it, Google Earth? I don't know exactly when all these streets were mapped, but I'm guessing it's been within the 30 years. And it looks like there's 2 vehicles on sale, so I just want to confirm that, or just make it a point that it's not, the garage is not going to be used to buy and repair vehicles, but,
No, the intent of that property is just to fix my own vehicles, and I have an explanation for that. I lost my dad in April of this year, and he left me those vehicles. So that's how they ended up there.
okay.
Ready, David?
I'm still debating this.
Oh.
Well, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's very rare that Google Earth either has old pictures or recent pictures. I'm just noting the fact that there's 2 cars for sales on the property. And I don't know when these pictures were taken, but, right. I mean, that's, either way, I'm not stating either or. But,
Mr. Cisneros, and then we did include pictures that were taken last week.
oh,
And
these are from last week?
No, those are Google Earth, that is correct. The ones in the presentation are from last week.
Okay,
And there were no vehicles there.
okay.
Okay, so, in general, aside from this case, I'm curious on how the code would be interpreted as far as 50% of any existing structure, or the principal structure. As per section, the summary of the request says the principal structure is 1840, so I'm curious and aside from this one, the principal structure includes garages and porches. I would think that would be taken into consideration. So on the Central Appraisal District, it's got a porch or a garage of 640 square feet, and then the 1840 is living area. If you add them, it's 2520. Divide that by 50%, it takes it to 1260. Right? It adds square footage as to what can be done by this applicant or other applicants. And so Mr. Gainat is saying that they take living area only. But I guess my question is, when the ordinance or the code, it says existing structure, what does that mean? Is that living area only? Is that porches?
So, yes,
Is that
so typically, so it's what the code, it's principal structure, right? Not existing structure. So the term is principal structure that you have. Again, It's an accessory structure to the principal structure. That's, as an offshoot, you cannot have two principal structures on one lot. You cannot have two homes on one lot, but yes, you could have a casita, a garage. And the way you differentiate from that is that it's 50% of the principal structure, right? So again, big house, little house, or big house, smallish garage. But the code is not specific to say, is the principal structure include porches from porches, carports, in that regard.
Even if they're attached to the principal structure? Like this picture right here, well, it's,
Yes.
that porch is under the same roof.
Yes, correct.
So that's,
I mean, technically you could, we just never have. It's just not a, again, for us, the principal structure is the house.
the house itself.
Correct.
Living area only.
Living area only, correct.
Mr. Estrada, I think that's why the Central Appraisal District classifies it as a porch, right? I think that, I mean, I couldn't tell you for certain, but I think that's why the Central Appraisal District says, okay, they make a distinction between the house square footage
Yeah.
and then the garage. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. And even by adding it, it doesn't make a difference on this one. He's still past that 50% even if we add that.
Mhm.
If I
But-
can add something, so I pulled up the municipal code department, so there's definitions in the chapter 46, the zoning code. There's actually no definition for principal structure, but there's a definition for structure, and structure says, structure means anything constructed or erected. So, you know, it probably would help to have a more clear definition, but, you know, you can see that there's at least a difference with structure is the entire thing, anything that's been constructed or erected. Principal would be something less than that.
So it's a gray area.
Yeah,
think
it
that's
could be. I mean, there's, sometimes, you know, on some of the very basic definitions, they won't define every single thing. A lot of things are defined. But, you know, from that, I mean, the way you'd have to interpret it is that structure with a capital S means something different than principal structure. So,
Okay.
So
Okay,
even,
thank you.
so even if that porch were to be added to that square footage, he still wouldn't, that prefab building still would not
No,
meet.
it's 1320 minus 1260. 1320 minus 1260. 60 feet short. If we take the porch into consideration and add it, his building would still be 60 square feet larger than what's allowed by code.
So you would just, I'm not sure how you're doing the calculations, and again, just to be fair to the gentleman, right? I think your point is well taken. There's a gray area. Could we technically utilize the porch? Sure, the code does not say you can't. We typically don't, but I could see your rationale for adding it. But then you would add, we haven't done the math. What you would do is then add the additional square footage of the porch. That would, so then it would not be 1840, it would be, what's the,
1840 plus 640.
the front porch is 640?
It's 640
Wow,
plus
okay.
1840 is 2520. 50% of that is
Got it. So
1260.
you were doing it by 50%.
And so if you take 1260 from his proposed structure, 1320 minus 1260 is 60 feet. And so should we take the porch into consideration? I mean, you know, I don't know.
I think
Porches,
that's
garage, that's a lot of square footage. 400 square feet, big porches, small porches, I don't know. I'm just bringing it up. And then what you're saying, or what you stated earlier for the reason for the denial, for the recommendation is setting precedent. And so that's the reason I'm bringing it up. Right. Okay. I'm good for now. But I still don't know how I'm gonna vote, so if anybody wants to make a motion.
It's a tough one.
It is, it really is.
And, I mean, you know, if I can make a comment to the applicant, great garage, great idea, sentimental values, the whole thing, I love it. I see myself or many other people wanting to do the same thing. I do, but there is code, there's rules, and I understand there's the process for a variance.
May I
But
just-
anyway, it's a great deal, but we're being asked to,
Yeah, it's a difficult situation on making these types of decisions. However, when you don't have that clarity in the ordinance, maybe we should revisit the ordinance after this and then write what specifics the ordinance should have so you don't have the situation. That's my recommendation. 24 years of working with the city of El Paso, it happens all the time. But hard decisions need to be made, and I'm not breaking any rules. I'm just trying to follow the rules. That's all I'm doing.
point taken,
Thank you, sir.
point taken.
Point taken, the city's not, the city's not actually telling him he can't do anything, but it's 50% that they can. I don't know. So when you say the building's been purchased, sir, I mean, you've paid for it and it can't be, I mean,
I've already given a $3,000 down payment on that property. It's just pending permitting. And
Right.
this is where I'm at in permitting, and I can't get the permit because I won't be able to put the structure if I don't get the permits. So I'm doing everything by the book.
right.
So would you lose money or not?
I mean, that's just a down payment, I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
Yeah. Well, I have-
A smaller building would be
I have a
less.
contract. I've already given $3,000, and there's $17,000 on the actual contract that's pending, the actual approval of this permit, so I can get that structure installed.
Question? Okay. I'm understanding that you are not in possession of the structure yet.
No, sir.
Okay, so you gave a down payment. Has whoever you're purchasing from, have they constructed this already? Is it like ready to be shipped? Or is it something where you can call and say, okay, give me less square footage on this, adjust the contract?
I have the design, the renderings already for that specific structure.
Okay, but do you know if it's been
I-
fabricated already?
No, sir, I wouldn't know. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't know. The renderings were provided to me.
Okay, so I have a question for Mr. Gainan. If the applicant comes back and he says, okay, I can modify the structure,
Yes, sir.
okay, without losing any money, okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. And we decide as a group to move forward in taking the square footage of the garage, where he only needs to come in with 60 square foot less to keep him at the 50%. Would you be okay with giving a recommendation of approval?
So a couple of things. One, just to be clear on, maybe you can, I don't know, that's a question for Marwan, but I cannot give you a recommendation based on the sentiment of this gentleman, whether he purchased or didn't purchase the building. I can't, I mean,
Well,
it's based on a
the-
land use, right?
the-
So I can't tell you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, he purchased a building, therefore I recommend approval. I can't do that. But your question, I mean, if we're being fair, right, and somehow maybe we do a little bit of research and that maybe the city of El Paso does allow the square footage of the front porch. I mean, we want to be fair, right? We're not trying to
Yeah.
ding him. I mean, I get it, but the code is the code. But if somehow then you scale it down from 72% to say 52% or 51%, that is a different conversation, right? That is a little bit more palatable for us to say, you should probably allow it. But without all the facts, I cannot give you a for sure, because I don't have all the facts, and I don't want you to say 6 months from now, well, Carlos, you said that you would allow it,
Right.
and then we don't, you know? So that would be my answer.
So if we take the porch into consideration, doing the math just by, it's 60 square feet. So if we can redesign it to where it's 60 square feet less, and we take the garage into consideration, then it meets code ordinance.
And he wouldn't have to
So
be
I-
here. He would not come for a variance. It meets
He
code.
wouldn't need
We
to
would
come
allow,
for a
we would
variance
permit
and-
it,
and
correct.
that. So I'm thinking, a trust company, right? If this stuff has already been fabricated and it's out there sitting on a lot, it's probably gonna cost some money to redo it. But if it's not, then just design it a little bit smaller, and we vote and take that garage square footage into consideration. And I think that would be a compromise. As it stands now, I would make a motion to deny as it stands now, because I think there's a compromise that can be met with all the parties involved. But I'm not making that motion, but that's what my position would be.
I'm with you, Mr. Estrada, but I am gonna go ahead and make the motion to deny, but I will ask the applicant to see if he is willing to compromise with having that less square footage on it.
So if I understand correctly, it is a recommendation from the committee to have that structure reduced by 60 square feet.
We need to, before we go there, we need to determine if we're gonna take that into consideration or not. And
Yes.
I don't know that the motion can include that. Either you deny it or you approve it. Because the question that is still clear, which might be why you're, again, you might, if you approve it, at least from what I'm listening to you say, is you're approving it because you feel that the front porch should be counted as square footage, therefore it's a little bit closer to the 50% and not 72%. So that, again, what I have told you is what I believe to be true. You don't have to take my advice, right? That's okay. But I don't know that the motion could be approve it because he needs to bring it down 60 square feet. Either you approve it or you deny it. And you approve it, I now understand your rationale for approving it.
Yeah, and if I can add to Mr. Gallinar's comments, so, you know, the question of if he comes back and reduces it and there's only 60 square foot difference, you know, just so the applicant knows too, is that the Planning and Zoning Committee, they can't promise a certain outcome that if you do
Yes,
X,
correct.
then you come back,
Yes,
then
correct.
yes, 100% approval next time. Because one of the other things too, everything here tonight, it will go to City Council next. Whether it's approved or denied, then it goes to City Council. So City Council could do something else. Planning Zoning says yes, that's okay. They say no, denied. So that's kind of the process. You know, Planning Zoning committees, I mean, you all can suggest certain things like you said. Yeah, it's just that you can't promise that next time 100% yes, we'll vote on it. Because it's very possibly, maybe there's a new commissioner as well, maybe you're not present. So there's no outcome guaranteed, but I think probably the best way, I think what you all are communicating is that there's a better chance of getting accepted with certain modifications. I think I can see what you guys are saying, yeah. And that's just for the applicant's benefit, so he knows.
I think everybody can feel the desire to approve it. I think, I mean, hopefully the applicants can notice the struggle of, well, the way I'm interpreting it is we shouldn't approve it. And I'm in that boat where we shouldn't approve it. We want to approve it because, you know, you're here, you're on top of it, you're being forthright with the city. But I think that's why these companies put in that caveat that they will not start building until they have the permit. So they're fully aware of that. So now you're aware of the city code, right? And unfortunately, for good or bad, this is where we're at. I've been in complete agreement where we have, if we can work with planning and zoning so that we can define garage and carports to be included in that calculation. I don't think there's any pushback to that. But I think that the way that it stands now is something that's just unfortunately, the way I'm reading the room and the way I'm gonna vote on it is to be denied. But hopefully in a very short time, maybe we as a board or as a city can make that change and you can come back and from the way I'm reading the room is if there's that small of a variance, because that's what we're asking, that's what you're asking for, is a variance, something outside of the code as it is now. But that's my sentiment on this.
So may I just say a couple words? I mean, if I'm gonna get denied, can it just go to council and get it denied there instead of me going back and forth?
It's gonna go to council, so
But at a denial or at an approval? That's where
depending on how the vote goes,
okay.
If it's denied, it's still gonna go to city council.
And they vote for it. okay?
Correct.
They vote.
And it's gonna go to the city council this Thursday. We expedited the request so that he doesn't have to wait another month or 2 weeks, so it will go to council on this Thursday, regardless of whatever recommendation you all choose to give him.
So let's put for our next meeting, let's put on the agenda,
To go over.
we'll discuss whether or not we need to add the square footage or not, and then deny this one with a recommendation to city council that they allow us to come forward with a recommendation on whether or not we think it's appropriate to include the square footage on the garage or not.
Well, I think that, in my opinion, I think, one, somebody will make the motion to deny or approve, and the outcome will be the outcome. Then we have to change the city code, and then it can come back. My question is will the applicant have to pay another fee? If, let's say, hypothetically, it gets denied today, it gets denied at city council, and is there a time limit where we can, because anytime that something's changed or is there a charge for the variance or the
Yes.
application?
There is.
Would there be a timeline where we can ask the client or the applicant to come back and not charge them again for that expense?
So, a couple of things. One, we cannot do that, right? It's a different application. I cannot, none of our staff can, hey, I don't feel like paying, I'm not saying that, but I don't feel like paying the fee. Can you
Yeah.
waive it? We can. And only city council could waive it. And then number two, it's a different application, so part of what the fees are for is to pay the staff. And so we would then start to process it, new report, new presentation, all of this. So that's why there would be a fee. I think the only way that it would not be a fee is if he chooses to draw it out of city council. And it's still the same application, but pending, and then we bring it back here. Then in addition to that, I know that the rezonings, if it is denied at city council, for rezonings, you have to wait 12 months. I'm not sure if that's the same thing for a variance. Maybe not?
Yeah, I'll have to look at it, usually there's some kind of time limit like that to bring it back.
Yes.
And the other thing I'm thinking of is if we ask for a postponement, because the applicant decide, no, I'll try my luck with city council, or I can postpone it. Even in the best of circumstances, changing the code would take, one, requesting it here, and then city council will
Correct.
approve it, which would be more than, if I remember correctly, the 30 days that we have to vote on a certain item? Or
So it
can
would definitely be, for us to bring back the code, it's an easy fix, but you have to introduce it at city council and then wait 2 weeks, so you're at least looking at 6 weeks. I'm not sure what 30 days you're referring to, sir.
If I remember correctly, what was that?
I think that was for approval of subdivisions or?
Yeah, that's usually like plats, preliminary
Yeah,
plats.
subdivisions, we
final
do have to
plats,
approve
yeah.
within 30 days.
Okay, so there's not a timeline on something like that?
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So my question would be to the applicant, I think you have a board in front of you
Yes, sir.
and a staff in front of you that's willing to look at changing, or at least seriously addressing that, how we calculate that 50%, which I think we're gonna do whether you take us up on it or not. Or you can choose to take it directly to city council, and that's where you're at. Where do you feel? Would you want us to postpone it and try to work on it? Or do you want to go to city council?
Well, there's a couple questions. If you postpone it and the ordinance is revised, and I brought this project before the ordinance, wouldn't it be grandfathered in anyways? Doesn't that work that way?
Well, I don't think so. I don't know. I've never worked
Because
with-
at the time of the ordinance, I brought this project, right? But if it's revised, that it shouldn't be related to the new ordinance. It should be related to the existing ordinance. And that's my understanding how ordinances work. Not 100% sure.
Thank you for that question.
You can only grandfather something that's already been built.
Okay.
So you could grandfather a structure, in this case it wouldn't apply, or you could grandfather the use. So it's also not applicable, it's still residential. And then also, just to be clear, and to reiterate what Marwan said, happy to bring you back the code, that's easy for us to do, not a big deal, happy to do it, but city council has to decide on the code.
Well,
It's- Right,
yeah.
so I don't want to, like, to
No,
Marwan's
yeah.
point, set expectations. I can't speak for council, I can't waive the fee, so all that has to go through council.
And let's say they, because council could approve it and be done with it. Council could deny it, and then we work on the changing, and then you could come back and pay again, and come back again. And according to the math, it would still be a variance, but it'd be like a 60-foot variance, right?
Or
So
unless he, at that point, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
Yeah.
but just to take it the full, all the way through what we've been discussing, or decrease it to 60%, no variance, here's your
nothing to
building
worry
permit.
about, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and also something to add on ordinances, so you guys knows that, you know, and if you're ever thinking about, well, okay, they're putting in a new ordinance or revising it, that process is not that quick either, it's not instant.
Yes,
I
correct.
mean, usually it takes months, it can take, if there's a comprehensive one that like planning and zoning is working on, take a year to put together a whole thing. And then city manager, other people have to get behind it, city council may just not be interested in what's there, we're not gonna even look at it, so there's no also guarantee, I've never seen it happen that quick.
Yeah, that's
within
right.
weeks.
It's an easy, the language is easy, but Marwan is correct. I mean, for us to draft it is not a big deal. We could do that fairly quickly, but post it on this agenda, recommendation to city council. But even before then, Marwan's right. He has to review it, city manager has to review it. I'm saying at least 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, and during that process too, because the public city Socorro, you know, people will come out to the open forums, they can ask for changes to it the way it is, so it gets further revised. Most of the time, it ends up being more restrictive than what it originally started with. Because somebody comes up with something, kind of like when you all are considering something and say, well, what about this issue, what about that? They change it, they keep changing it, and it becomes a lot more restrictive over time. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that you don't get a certain outcome, it can go a whole different way, just so you guys know.
Mr. Chair, I think this,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Just want to mention in regards to the time frame, the more time elapses, the more it's going to cost because of the cost of metal, the cost of the, you know, everything's going up. So that's also going to affect my end of the day, my cost to this garage. So if we take longer, it's only going to put me susceptible to more charges from the company. So just want to let you know that.
I have a different concern. Since it's a R1, I'm afraid that possibly in the future you could make that garage setting into a livable house. And then we would have to change the code to R2.
Well, I don't plan to live there unless my wife kicks me out, but for the most part, it's 3-bay garage, actually 4 bays, and it's all just for vehicles. It's not to live. It's just to keep me busy and, you know, entertain myself as a mechanic, but nothing else but that.
Right. But it's
And-
still a possibility.
No, everything's a possibility. I mean, you got people doing that without even being here in city council or with the commission, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm being very transparent, and that's what I'm trying to avoid, so that's why I'm here today.
I'd like to make a motion to deny just because of the circumstances that the code is giving us or whatnot, but I would like to go into what Mr. Estrada was talking about, into talking a little bit about that on our, in the future and stuff, and I apologize, I mean, I understand Mr. Reyes, correct? It's just, there's a big difference, there's 400 and some odd square feet that we're unclear of or whatnot, and unfortunately, you know, that's where I stand. I'd like to make a motion to deny, and maybe city council will look at it different than what we do or whatnot.
Okay, I'll make a second. I'll second the motion, but I want to make a comment. And I know the answer, but for clarification, if the applicant reduces the size of the structure to meet the 50%, which it looks like it would be one less bay, and he gets to the 50% of the living area, then no variance is required, he doesn't come before the board, right?
That is correct, sir.
That's correct. So would eliminate the porch area or the bay, or one bay, right? And this would be a non-issue. Okay, so I just want to make that comment, and just to be clear that,
Yes, sir.
okay. So I second the motion.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to deny, second by David Estrada. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Item number 6, consider and take action on the election of officers for Planning and Zoning Commissioners. Mr. Gainar? Yes.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, as you know, this is part of your business meeting, and we did the same thing last year. And so one of the things that the bylaws require you to do during the first sort of weeks in January is to revisit. The bylaws ask you to select select officers for the board, and so that is the item that's in front of you. So it really is entirely up to you, however you want to handle it.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Andrew Arroyos to stay as president.
Who's,
So you guys know we need elected tonight chairperson, first vice chairperson, second vice chairperson, executive secretary.
And
Can you
Mr. Chair-
repeat those again? I'm sorry. Can you repeat those, Mon?
Yeah. It's chairperson, then first vice chair, second vice chair. So 3 positions. And then the executive secretary.
and so right now we have Andrew, chairperson, Enrique Cisneros, first vice chair, I believe it's David Estrada for second vice chair,
That's right.
and then executive secretary.
I'm sorry? Oh, executive
Executive-
secretary, yes.
Yeah.
Judith Rodriguez.
Okay, I say we leave it as is, if
I
everybody's
second it.
okay
And
with
if
that.
anybody wants to be first chair, let me know.
You want to be first chair? No?
No,
So
I
keep everything
second.
the same? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to keep the positions the same.
Yes.
I have a motion made by Enrique Cisneros. Do I have a second?
second,
Second by Julie Dominguez. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried.
I have a question. The executive secretary will be Miriam?
No, Judith.
Judah? Oh, okay. That's fine.
Item number 7, consider and take action on the bylaws of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Gainar?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, same thing, part of the annual business meeting that you have. Again, we present to you the bylaws. Not sure if you've had a chance to review those. Last year, you asked us to bring it back several weeks later. But again, this is entirely your meeting. This is the opportunity that you have to make any changes to the bylaws.
I had a question. So, on article, where it says on the ethics side, page 6 of 10, part B, it refers to any voting member of the Planning and Zoning Commission who has substantial interest in a matter before the PNC as defined by section 1.1.002. Can we get a copy of that, just so that we can, at least I'd like a copy of it.
What section are you?
It's like, it's 6th of 10 on the, at the top, it says ethics, and then it says part B, and then it refers to like the Texas code, and I'd just like to see if we can get, if we can get a copy of that for, you know, so that we can take a look at it. Thank you. My next question was, I know as a committee, on page 9 of 10, we've kind of taken a not so structured approach to the presentations, which is, you know, I'm not saying it's good or bad. But according to this, staff will go first and then the applicants, and then proponents and then opponents? Because I think we've always done it a little bit differently. For the upcoming year, do we want it defined like this, or do we want to change it? I mean, just because I know sometimes we'll let the public speak first, and then staff. But the way it's written here, staff first, and then the applicant, and then proponents and opponents. I just wanted to draw attention to that. And it's on page 9 of 10.
One thing on this, on the presentation order, so this is the way, I guess it's set out. But the chairperson can always also take things out of order. It's kind of within the discretion as well. Maybe there's an applicant that's really jumping up to say something, well, I'll hear from them first. But that's within the discretion, but you can also change formally as well through the bylaws if you want to.
Okay.
It's meant to be kind of flexible to give you enough, something came up today, or maybe we have 20 people here to speak. So, okay, let's hear from them first. Or sometimes they want to hear the presentation because they don't know we've had that happen a few times where people didn't know what was actually coming up and they were against it. Like, oh, I didn't know that's what it was. There's discretion within the chairperson or the vice chair if the vice chair is the person there that day. But you can change it. Yeah, it's all up to you guys. So.
Ramon, can I also add? So a couple of things. One, I think that's correct. Like the way that it's structured here, we typically don't follow it. And it might be a good idea to have the staff give the presentation, right? We try to give you and the public as much information as possible. Here's the zoning, here's the pictures, here's very clearly what the request is. And then you might hear the audience or the public's after, they may have cleared up some things. So I think that's a good idea to follow the structure that's here. However, I think that the only time that you're not able to follow the structure is on rezonings, because what we do, the agenda, one case has 2 agenda items. Public hearing, right? Can we hear from the public? And then the discussion and action. So I'm not sure, do we have to have
You're talking about where we have it on the agenda as like a public hearing?
and then he calls 6:05, anyone from the public, even before I've given the presentation. So do we need to have that first part of the agenda? Can't you have the public hearing as part of the just one agenda item, and then he calls anyone from the public like to speak up?
You still have to put it on the agenda that says, motion or ordinance to approve something, and public hearing. So
Yes.
It's got to have the words public hearing. But you can do it a few different ways. I mean, you can do the item first, and then say, okay, now we're gonna have the public hearing, so you can make it a separate item. You could put it together. You could do it the way it's been done.
Yeah,
But it's still, no matter what, it's got to, on the agenda, say public hearing for.
okay.
So if the agenda, if on our agenda we had right here, it says public agenda first and then consent or whatnot, we can switch it, now we can do that consent first and then public without being in the same order here?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, he can take items out of order.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
You can always, if you ever watch Socorro City Council, they do that sometimes. They'll say, let's move up items 19 and 21st. We'll do those first. We'll put the other ones at the back. So you can move things around. Again, there's flexibility. Anybody on the committee here or the commission can make a motion to do that. Can we take item 5 first? Or the chairperson can suggest it, and then you guys vote on it and say, yeah, okay, we'll move it. So.
You okay with that?
And just one last question. We can, the chairperson can always open up public speaking again?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. I think the intent is that you want to give the public the opportunity to speak, and that you have invited the public to speak, right? You've never done it. I don't think that you would do it. The alternative is move to approve, and you don't hear from the public when you should, because the code requires it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I mentioned this to commission before too, is that you can be very rigid on the rules. I mean, the rules are there, so if you say, look, I'm shutting you down after 2 minutes and that's it, I'm using a timer, you can do that. We don't have that many people here, so, somebody wants to talk, I would say as the attorney, I always say, give them the opportunity so they can feel like they've been heard, that the city's hearing them. Sometimes you may want to shut it down because somebody wants to talk for 2.5 hours. It's like, no, we'll give you your 5-10 minutes at most, but that's it. You know, so as a chairperson, again, you can say, look, I'll give you your allotted time, but that's it. We're going to move on to the next item. But some of it, you know, you don't want to be heavy-handed about it. Even as the lawyer, a lot of times, I'm not going to jump in and say, hey, they're going too long. You know, that's not my place either. That's for you guys up to you how you want to run it. But it's mainly meant to be efficient. So if you've got a night where you've got 20 items and there's 40 people here, and it's like, we got to get through it quickly because we just don't have, you know, we don't have 10 hours to be here. But sometimes you may want to give somebody more time. So it's flexible. It's meant for you guys to kind of control the meeting and make it go the way so it's efficient and then people get heard. So
Normally, it's 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's cutting it a little bit short or whatnot, but if 5 to 10 minutes, I think is a long time, right? I mean, if somebody
Yeah.
wants to go over.
and some of it's, you know, if you bring somebody back up, and I don't know if did you guys do the training already on the, was that still scheduled? The Robert Rules of Order training, there was gonna be a training, right? Okay. So there'll be some training maybe that goes over this, but, you know, sometimes, you know, you call the applicant up and then it's okay, we sit down, we've got no questions. Sometimes they jump back up again, and so it could go back and forth forever. It's not usually a problem here, but sometimes I cover city council for Jim Martinez, the city attorney. There it can get long. I mean, people want to go off about whatever issue it might be, and so it's like, okay, we got to implement the rules. And so, you know, again, as a chairperson, you get to kind of control that flow of the meeting. But it's taking different things into consideration, letting them be heard, but not shutting people down. But then sometimes, again, if it gets out of hand, you know, you can control it and say, okay, you know, your time's up. And you can cut me off too, because I'm going too long.
No.
Feel free anytime.
Who's the one that's supposed to say your time is up? Is it the executive secretary or shall it be the chairman?
It could be staff.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Great.
So, and this might help to answer your question, page 8 of 10. Okay, this talks about open forum, but it says if an individual is signed up to speak on an open forum or any other time on the agenda, they will be called to the podium and given 5 minutes to make the presentation. If they are representing a group, the group will be given a maximum of 3 5-minute presentations. The executive secretary will time each presentation and will signal the end of the presentation with a verbal call of time. So it'll be the executive secretary. So, you know, like I said, we do have these rules in here in the bylaws. It's 5 minutes, that's what it says. But more or less, I mean, you know, it's 5.5 minutes, maybe they use 3. Maybe you interrupted them and asked them lots of questions, then they didn't get to talk. So it's like, where do you cut off the 5 minutes? Again, within your discretion, you know.
Okay. Anything else?
I do have one more thing, sorry. Page 5 of 10, I wanted to see if any of the other commissioners were interested in changing. On number 1, it says an item may not be reconsidered twice except by 2/3 consent of the PC, Planning and Zoning Commission. My question is, since there's so few of us, would you all be interested in changing that to 60%? I mean, it's still gonna be a very high bar to meet to bring something back. But I think that the fewer commissioners we have on the board, it's gonna be even bigger barrier to get to. So if there was any interest, I'd like to change that.
To 60?
I mean, it's still, I mean, you're looking at 66% approval, which here, it would literally have to be 3 of us to get to over 66%, right? Which would be 75. If we had 60%, there would still need to be 3 of us. But if we ever get to the point where we're a full commission, it'd still be very contentious and a high bar to meet, but, I mean, I don't think we've ever brought in anything back, but just my nerd brain says, if anybody else had some interest in that, I'd want to change that. How do you all feel?
And you're, it's item number 1, right?
Yes, sir. And I guess a question would be, let's say if there was interest in changing it, we just asked for it to be withdrawn and it would, or what would be that process, if there was interest?
To change it?
Yeah.
So you can make a motion to approve the bylaws with an amendment, you know, to item H1, and then you list it. So that's a way to do it, and then it would be amended by that. You guys will end up needing to sign the bylaws as well at the end. I think we have a signature page formally. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Thank you. Any interest?
And it would have to be changed today? That would have to be something that we would have to do today, right?
Yeah, it'd be effective going forward today. So, you can do that. You have the option to approve it as is. You have the option, if you don't do anything, take any action today, current bylaws stay in effect until you change it.
And if we wanted to bring it back, can we bring the we can only look at the bylaws, bring it back once a year, or we could just keep it, we can always ask for it to be brought back?
I think you can bring it back multiple times. It just so happened like this is the annual meeting, kind of like the business meeting too, so we're looking at the calendar, looking at this. But it can be brought back, yeah, you just have to get a vote on it. I think probably it's yeah, 2/3, so same. Oh, okay.
2/3,
So yeah,
66.
I think it usually at the
so
end it
go from
says something about,
66 to 60.
I don't know if it's unanimous to bring it back,
You're saying to take
or
it
2/3,
No, no.
60.
60,
Yeah.
instead of 60.
changing the bylaws.
Because like right now, if it's a majority vote, 3 out of 4,
It would still,
75%.
yeah, it would still take majority vote right now. But let's say we have, how many is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? We would still need
Amendments.
4 out of 6. So it's still a very high bar to meet. So in my mind, it makes, I mean, we're definitely asking for a high bar as it is. But I think the smaller the commission gets, it's an even higher bar to
Oh,
meet.
okay, yeah, that's one.
In this case, we've never, ever brought anything back. So the reality is it's an exercise in really trying to get this better, and better. And for me, when I read this, it just felt like this is an easy fix. But that's how I interpret it.
I think to answer the question that you guys had, so that on the amendments, page 10 of 10, it says, the Planning Zoning Commission may make, alter, amend, or rescind these bylaws at any regular meeting. So that's any time through the year at any regular meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So-
Can you think about,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
What's that?
what do you think on bringing that?
I'm okay with how it is right now, the 2/3. I think it should stay at 2/3.
I didn't hear you.
I think it should stay as is.
It
as
is,
that's
okay.
my opinion on it.
Okay, and you want to wait on it. So there's no other interest, so I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make sure to bring it up. Yeah. So I'll make a motion to approve as is, and I would ask, you know, if we ever want to bring that back, I'd invite anybody else to bring it back.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion made by Enrique Cisneros to approve, second by Andrew Arroyos. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Item number 8, consider and take action on the 2023 meeting calendar. Mr. Gallina?
Sure, Carlos Gainard once again. So we have provided to you the schedule as part of the backup, and the schedule reflects the current schedule of every first and third Tuesdays of the month at 5:30. And so if you're okay with that, we'll continue down that path, and we just need a motion for you to approve. That way we know that that's the schedule you'd like.
I'll make a motion to keep as is.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion made by Julie Dominguez and second by Andrew Arroyos. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any abstains? Any nays? Motion carried. Item number 9, Planning and Zoning Commissioners Report.
I don't have anything, I just, I would like to go over that, well,
We can make a motion to bring it on to the agenda.
yes, sir.
Okay, so let me say something on what we were discussing, the whole square footage and all that. This new subdivision out behind the church, St. Peter and Paul, there's one particular homeowner in there that built a porch in his backyard. Now, I think he's got I want to say it's a 20-foot setback or 25-foot setback from his house to the property line. And then the lot is 50 foot wide. And so he attached to his house, and literally he went all the way to the back to the fence. He's not anywhere near any compliance. There's no way he got it permitted. He got it built. It's frustrating to me. I see it, and then for the neighbors, well, they built right up against him. So this is somebody who wants to take full advantage of as much of his lot that he can. And so, I haven't put the finger on him or anything like that, right? I haven't come in and complained, but it's out there. And so it's frustrating. It definitely needs to follow code. So we need to, for that reason, we need to, and like today, there's just people out there who are gonna build, and it just doesn't go with the rest of the neighborhood, right? Anyway, for what that's worth, I think we should put it on the agenda. I just don't know how to make the motion or how to do it.
I don't think they need a motion. I mean, it's
No,
enough direction, right?
Yeah, it's like, I'll report it to planning and zoning, probably have to put your name on it. And then the guy will hate you forever, but.
No, what he's talking about bringing the language.
That particular item?
No. Just the language of, the language
The
of,
definition.
yes, correct. Defining the
Okay.
definition to maybe, I don't know, just to review the definition of principal structure and bring it to
You
them
can
with
do
their
that, and then,
recommendation.
and then make a suggestion change to city council.
Correct.
On the amendment to the ordinance. That's doable.
I don't think you need to make a motion. I mean, we get it, right? We're listening to you, and at the next meeting, we could bring that to you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't need a motion.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Item number 10, Planning and Zoning Department Report.
Yes, ma'am. The only item that I have is just to remind you that we do have that training this Friday from 9 to noon at Horizon City. And so hopefully, you've all been registered, so hopefully you all can make it.
From 9 to 12, right? I think I want to.
9 to 12, yes, sir.
Just in case we don't have it.
9 to 12. And one other item, Mr. Vaquera has resigned. And so this is essentially the body that we have, and we will relay that information to City Council so that they could start appointing 1, 2 individuals. 3 more, yeah? Yeah, we need 3.
Did he say why he quit?
He sent me an email. He's getting married and he's moving to the east side and will no longer be a resident of Socorro. And so that was his.
Quick question.
Sorry,
So-
go ahead.
So quorum is at least 3 on this. If we have at least 3 of the quorum. At least 3.
Yeah, it's a majority. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So just wanted to bring that up again. This is the body that we have now, so as much as you're able to, please attend the meetings. It makes it easier for staff and applicants, but we will relay maybe a concern, maybe not, but we will relay to City Council that we need members on the commission.
Okay, so I'm 50-50 on the next meeting, which is February 7th. I'm 50-50 on whether I'll be here, so you guys better be. But don't discuss anything without me.
Don't vote without me.
Okay, so we could wait to bring it back. I mean, what we could do is we could put it on the agenda and you could choose to move to postpone. And that way you at least have some of the backup in the language that we're thinking. And I'm not 100% sure, but we may be okay to maybe postpone that meeting just based on the items that we have. We might have an introduction, I think, for a rezoning. We do? Do we? Okay. Well, let's look at that. I mean, if we need to have the meeting, we'll have it, and if we're able to postpone it, we'll postpone it.
Item number 11, consider and take action on the adjournment of the meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to adjourn meeting, second by Julie Dominguez. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstains? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 6:42. Thank you.
Ya, ¿verdad?